So
record as you were doing this. Okay, great.
Okay. So I think, I think Natasha is recording. So yes, Prabhuji, did we do Mangalacharan already?
Yes, Prabhuji.
You did it. You can do it again if you want. That's fine.
Okay, yes, yes, I'll just do it quickly. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vitam Stam Sajajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritan Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhavitanscha He Krishna's Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopikanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kaltarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patatanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Gaur Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we are doing a nectar of instruction, and today I'm just talking about in the second shloka we already talked about Atyahara, and now I'm discussing Prayaas. So I will start from where we had left off with Atyahara when Mom had discussed Atyahara. So one thing I wanted to kind of mention. So let's start with the definition. What does Prayaas mean? Prayaas means to over endeavor or unnecessary endeavor is called as Prayaas. Now, the problem is that that first we have to understand. So we are reading about the 6 things in Nectar of Instruction text 2, which lead to, which are like a impediment to bhakti. And so Shadbhir Bhakti Vinashyati. So first we read about, we talked about Atyahara, and now we are talking about Prayaas. In Atyahara, we talked about what things are extra, whatever we are accumulating extra. That was one of the things that is in Atyahara, be it accumulating or saving either food or any other thing, material needs or excess of material needs was Atyahara. And Prayaas is very much related to Atyahara because our tendency to do Atyahara leads to Prayaas, or we do Prayaas because we have a tendency for Atyahara. So I'll just mention that the references that I used for this mostly are, of course, Nectar of Instruction, then Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's lecture about, from the Bhakti Shastri course. So I use that mostly. And then Atul Prabhu had shared the, Bhakti Vinod Thakur's work on this from Bhakti Aloka. So those are the things that I use to prepare this topic, and so that I could understand it and discuss it a little bit with the other devotees here. So I'll try to explain what I understood. Please forgive whatever mistakes I do in the process. Hare Krishna. So yes, so I was talking about Atyahara and how Atyahara leads to Prayaas, which is over endeavoring to trying to achieve anything. Now, starting from the Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's lecture, he mentioned that it can be divided into like 3 parts, this topic about Prayaas, that there's over endeavoring, then what is the problem with it, and then we talk about the solution. So what is Prayaas? That is over endeavoring. So the true purpose of religion or dharma is to understand the laws of God. Now, sometimes because of our material entanglement and our conditioned nature, what we do is we try to over endeavor, and because of our tendency for atyahara, we over endeavor to gain more and more. And for that, we do prayas, which is over endeavoring in our um, material causes to save more, to accumulate more, and that is prayas in the material world. Even we can go a step ahead, and even for religious things, there can be prayas. So there can be material thing, prayas for material gains, or over endeavoring for getting material gains, or even in religion there can be over endeavoring. And actually, switching to Bhakti Loka, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this very well, and he talks about Gyan Prayas and Karma Prayas. So, Gyan Prayas is a feeling of um, that when we are trying to gain too much knowledge for liberation, or for gaining more and more prestige in the spirit, in the religion. Even so, if we are trying to gain too much knowledge so that we can show off for fame, or if we are trying to gain too much knowledge just only for liberation, that is also a kind of prayas. So when we talk about Atyahara, in Atyahara also, um, one thing that I think we didn't discuss completely is that Atyahara, we talked about the material part of it, but can there be Atyahara towards spirituality? Not not really, not when you're talking about true spiritual platform, but in religion there can be Atyahara. Okay, so we are if we are and prayas, so if we are over endeavoring to gain fame, to gain liberation, or to gain just a status, that is atyahara and prayas. To gain, try to gain, that is atyahara, and how we try to get there, that is the prayas. So the Gyan Prayas is that when we are trying to endeavoring or over endeavoring for liberation, that is also a kind of prayas, and that is Gyan Prayas. Then there is um, now then there is Karma Prayas. Karma Prayas is the typical prayas that we understand, that okay, I'm a householder, I'm trying to, I should only try to get as much as I need, and for my family, and save a little bit. But anything more than that, if I'm trying to get more and more and more, and that is all I'm endeavoring for, then that becomes karma prayas. So they can be gyan prayas, karma prayas, yoga prayas. So even if your people, if somebody is doing ashtang yoga very well, and if they do the ashtang yoga, they do the yogic principles, but they do it not for the for focusing the mind on Krishna, on bhakti, then it is, and if they only do it for liberation, then that is also a kind of prayas. And then mukti prayas. Mukti prayas is just for liberation. Anything that you do just for the goal of liberation, that is also prayas. So all these kinds of prayas, they are told to be very unfavorable for devotional service. And that is the problem, that if we do indulge in these kinds of prayas, then there is less time for spiritual inquiry, because we are working so hard to try to accumulate more. If we are working so hard to gain liberation, if we are working so hard to just gain the knowledge only, when it is not for the goal of devotion or to progress in bhakti, then it is prayas. That is the problem in that, is that we have just limited time, limited lifespan, and if we spend it in those things, then actually we are taking away from our spiritual life and spiritual progress, and that time wasted is very negative for our devotion and devotional life. So so Prabhupada mentions in Nectar of Instruction that we should have simple living and high thinking. And Amrendra Prabhu, when he was talking about this, he said the problem is that we are simply living and hardly thinking. So, so that is the problem, that we, when we get into simply living and hardly thinking, rather than simple living and high thinking. So we need to avoid that. So true religion is that we just need to our bare necessities, while our work, all the work that we do is in the process of cultivating Krishna consciousness. So that is true religion. And jivasya tattva jigyasa, that the main goal of spiritual of our life is to know about Krishna and dedicate our life to devotional service and not spend extra time in over endeavoring. So, um, so that's why mundane endeavors should be limited. So, how to draw the line that what is okay versus what is extra, what is over endeavoring? Where do I draw the line? How do I try to understand that? So, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu explained this very well in his lecture that when we take anxiety, which is unmanageable, that is over endeavoring. So, the threshold for that will be different for everybody. So there's not a straight line that we can say, okay, if you're trying to get more than $100, it is atyahar. No, it's not that. If you are, it is different based upon your own circumstances. It is different for householders versus different for um, renunciates. Bhakti, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur explains that you can divide how much is enough, or it's separate for householders. Householders, it is the duty of a householder is to try to, as I said, get enough so that they can maintain their family and save a little bit, versus for renunciates, they should not save anything. They should just, he mentioned that they should just beg alms and not try to accumulate any wealth at all. So that is, so they're different for different people, how much is enough. Now, coming, as most of us are householders, so I'll focus a little bit more about householders so that we can understand that what is, how to draw that line. So again, try to if we try to get the bare minimum, and then we divide our time into kind of three phases of life. We have our spiritual life, which is the most important. Then we have our work or office life, and then we have our family life. So we need to divide our time amongst these three and figure out what is the best way to maximize our time for spiritual life. If I'm working extra in my work, if I'm, some people are called as workaholics. They are doing so much of their work either for sense gratification, or because they want to gain so much money so that they can indulge in atyahara, or just because sometimes it becomes a tendency that it's like an escapist phenomena. So just like people drink alcohol, sometimes not just for, it's not the taste of alcohol, it is that idea of escapism, that they say, I want to forget my worries. I'm drinking because I want to forget all worries. Okay, I don't want to remember what's happening. I don't want to think about it. Same in the movie theaters. We have talked about this in the past, that how if we watch movies because we want to forget about the world. We want to live in a not true world. You're living in a fantasy land. So that's why the lights are off in the theater, so you don't uh, realize what is the real world, and then you wake up and or kind of come back to the real world after it is over, and then everything is the same other than you have wasted time. So same way that that people are alcoholics and they are trying to forget what is happening in the real life, or in the movie theater, they're only concerned about the real life and not the real life. Just like that, people try to forget what is happening in their family, what is happening, if they're whatever bad things are happening, they're trying to escape from in their work. They try to work so much, they're like, okay, I'm just going to work, I'm just going to pay full attention to my work, and that's all I will do because that's all I know how to do, or something in my other spheres of life is not balanced, and you're trying to forget all that and just focus on the work. Okay, so that is, we are paying undue attention to one of the sphere, these three spheres of life, which is our material our office work, our family life, and devotional life. We are paying undue attention to the office work, and we are serving a material boss, right? Whereas we are neglecting the supreme boss. We are neglecting Krishna. So taking time out from our devotional life and our spiritual activities, and spending it too much in material activities, that is where you have to draw the line. That and we should actually think, another example that Prabhuji gives is that, sometimes we are focusing too much on our work. We are very efficient in our work. One day we'll be like, okay, I'm getting everything done quickly, everything is happening perfectly, I'm in the zone, kind of, we say. And Prabhuji gives that example, that be it like, if somebody is writing some complicated software or whatever, and they're working very efficiently, so they're in the zone. So you're completely focused on it, right? So you're focused that day, but what about the other days when you're not focused, right? What do? You don't go to work, you stop working? No, we still go to work. Those other 3 months, 6 months, whenever or whatever the time between those things are, you still have to go to work. You have to show up, you have to keep doing your work. It may not be 100% efficient, maybe 80% efficient someday, or less some other day. But again, the same way that we keep our dedication, that no, this is my job, I have to do it, it's my duty. So just like that, if we are spending so much dedication towards a material boss and material work, we should definitely try to give 110% dedication to our real boss, that is Krishna. So we should dedicate our time and energy just like that. Someday we are chanting and we are chanting very well. It's like, oh wow, I'm in bliss. Wow, this chanting is perfect. I'm really in the zone. I'm really focused on Krishna, and I keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and keep doing it, and you're like very focused. Another day it would not be that 100% focus, but it doesn't mean that I should leave it. Just like I didn't leave my work, I should not leave chanting, right? I was dedicated to my work. I still went the next day to work when I was not 100% efficient. So definitely I should not leave my chanting and not leave my spiritual activities if I'm not 100%, you know, if I'm not 100% um, focused on it. So it is important to keep giving our 100% whenever possible, and keep endeavoring with dedication to get better at it. So in our spiritual life. So that ways we can try to draw this line, that how much time am I some days it is possible that family life will require more time. There's a birth in the family, there is a death in the family, there is somebody in the family needs support, time, needs our help. So we have to be there for those things. So that's why when we spend extra time to, again, one sphere, we should try to make up the same way by putting in extra times on certain other days when we can. So be it Ekadashi, be it our other festivals, Janmashtami, Prabhupada, their Parents' Day, and Kartik month. So all these times, there will be times when we are spending more time towards devotional service. We have to, we have a deadline at work. We are spending more time for work. So similarly, as long as everything is all those spheres are balanced for householders, that is what is important, to make sure that we are balancing and prioritizing our devotional service and spiritual life. That is the way for us householders that is recommended. That, and if we do that, and remember that most important thing is to this Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa, that is most important thing is Krishna, and to devote our life towards Krishna and think more and more about Krishna. As long as we keep that in the center, and keep Krishna in the center, then we can avoid more karmic bindings and work more and more in akarma. Even if we are doing in our household life, we are doing our work. But if we remember that we have to keep Krishna in the center, spend more and more time for Krishna, then we can try to avoid too much of prayas. Okay, so that is the next point. Um, so in summary, again, we have to minimize material endeavors because that leads to misery, and we have to maximize spiritual endeavors because that is the true bliss or happiness in life. Okay, now now and again in Bhakti Aloka, it is very nicely explained how one's inherent occupation for the living entity is to serve Krishna, right? So we all talk about this, we know this, and but just because a living entity is in this conditioned world, we still have to do a little bit of prayas for cultivating our devotion. So normally there should be no prayas because in spiritual progress, because that is the inherent nature of the living entity to serve Krishna and to be in devotional service. So normally that should come inherently, and that is our true nature, and it does not involve prayas. But because we are in this conditioned world, a little bit of prayas is needed to cultivate that devotion, knowing that that is the final aim and goal. Okay. Um, so then next is examples of activities which are not prayas. So again, now this is talking more in terms from devotional service, because we have talked a little bit about what is karmic prayas, and we have talked about what is gyan prayas. So this is talking more now in gyan prayas, what are the things which are not considered as prayas. Okay, so visiting holy places, so even if we are trying to visit holy places, that can be prayas if we are not doing for the goal of bhakti or cultivating our Krishna consciousness, or um, so that's going to be prayas. So visiting holy places for where Krishna did his pastimes to increase and awaken our lost love for Krishna, that is not considered as prayas. Okay, then to follow the vows of devotional service, that is also not prayas. So if we have decided we are going to do 16 rounds every day, we are going to do specific whatever vows we have taken to progress in our devotional service, doing those is not considered prayas. Okay, serving Vaishnavas, that is never prayas. So because their mercy is what can give us true love of Krishna, so that is not considered prayas. That is Vaishnav seva is actually recommended, and that is not prayas again. Um, so again, then if we do DT worship, whatever partake we are doing in service in the temple, that is also not prayas. Of course, Nam Sankirtan, whenever and however much we can do it, it is recommended. That is not considered as prayas. So just wanted to give these some of these things which we should not confuse, that sometimes we may get bewildered and be like, okay, is this prayas? But this is not prayas if we are doing it for awakening our dormant Krishna consciousness or propagating it, continuing it. Okay. um, Now Sri Sanatan Goswami says in Hari Bhakti Vilas another type of prayas. Okay, he says, Sarva Tyagapi Achi um, Achiyaya Sarva Anartha Bhuvascha Kuryo Pratishtha Vishtaya Gatinam Asparshane Vartante. Okay, pardon me if I said something wrong in this, in the pronunciation. But the English meaning of this is, even if one can give up all material desires, the desire for fame is difficult to give up. So this is the worst kind of prayas, and the last one, that even if we are getting all away from all the material desires, then it is still very difficult to get away from this one, and that is to want fame. So desire for fame is compared to stool, and it is said to be the root cause of all anarthas. So one should therefore very carefully avoid it, like we avoid touching stools. So that is one thing I learned while reading this, that we have to be always very careful. And one way that I've learned from devotees, what they've told me is, or I've heard, is that they always, one way to avoid this is to always dedicate whatever, if we are getting any appreciation or anything like that, or if we start thinking that it's me who's doing it, then that is the start of our downfall. So we should always dedicate it to senior acharyas, senior devotees, Guru, Krishna, for giving us the intelligence to discuss anything that we are able to. So those were some points that wanted to discuss. Um, yeah, and I'll open it for discussion for anybody who has questions about this. Please uh, forgive me if I made any mistakes while discussions. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Thank you so much. Very nice. Very beautiful. Guruji, can you give some examples of prayas in daily life practically, which we can understand, like what really is prayas and what is not?
Yes, Prabhuji. Like very simple example would be, like if we are doing extra hours, and if we are doing extra hours, either for getting more money, if we are, let's say, if, like I'm a physician, right? If I can do locums, let's say. Now I'm, by Krishna's mercy, right now I have enough in my material life that I can maintain my family. I have a little bit saved. Now, if say no, I want more. On the weekends, I want to go and do locums. Locums is I go to another place, I get some extra money for taking a shift or two or whatever. That is locums. So that is one example that I can think of in my situation. That would be like Prayaas, because I will be then staying away from home. Prabhupada says this in Nectar of Instruction, that all one needs to maintain ourselves in this in this day and age is really, you need some land and you need a cow. So the farm community kind of situation. He says that there's no need for over endeavoring, there's no need for going to from one place to another for getting the basic need, basic bread, and everybody gets that. We have talked about examples of how an ant is able to get what ant wants to eat, and an elephant also gets what an elephant wants to eat without doing any prayas, right? They're not over endeavoring to get I need so much, let me save for so many years. They're not an elephant is not doing that. He still is able to get kilos of um, food. They don't have to do too much prayas for that. So just like that, we don't need to over endeavor and over accumulate. And we need to make sure that we are able to do our spiritual duties, spend time in our spiritual activities. And end of the day, um, you know me included, sometimes we say that I did not have time for my spiritual activity. I did not, or I used to say that until pretty recently, that I don't have time to do 16 rounds or chant, because again, we are doing too much. We are trying to do too much. We read in seventh canto, the per vargas, per for bha ma, the five kind of vargas. And one was, so I think I have it somewhere opened up here. um, so per was parishram, very hard labor. Fur means fena, foam from the mouth. For example, we see a horse foaming from the mouth with heavy labor. So we should try not to be like that. We should try to avoid that kind of activity. And we should just try to remember that our Jivain Swarupen Krishna Nityadas. So if we try to remember that and try to think that, is this activity the whatever is prescribed usual activity I'm doing, if I'm doing more than that for attaining too much, is that something that is helping me in my material life, and do I really need it, or is this helping me in my spiritual life? So if we if we balance our task, or when the question comes, should I do this or not, in that balance, that tarazu, then we should be able to answer that, if it's going to benefit my Krishna consciousness, my devotion towards Krishna, then that is not prayas. As we discussed, what is not prayas, is that helping my my chanting, my sankirtan, my uh, if I'm serving in the temple, then those services, or is it Vaishnav Seva, part of Vaishnav Seva in any way? So those things are not considered prayas, and really anything else more than that, if we do extra, then that would be prayas. Like if I'm, again, I gave example of from my work, what would be prayas, or if I'm going out of the way and being like, no, no, let me read echoes now from somewhere else. Let me find out an online thing so that I can read echoes and I can get some extra money, or that will be prayas. Does that answer your question, Prabhuji?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And Prabhuji, one more question. In your talk, you were mentioning about one of the greatest hurdle is the desire to have name, fame, recognition. In what context with Prayas were you relating it to?
Yes, Prabhuji. So it says, so as I said, Sri Sanatan Goswami has mentioned this in Hari Bhakta Vilas, that fame is, so the last thing that we can, if we, so we are working, um, to avoid material attachments. So even when we are working in that context, that we are trying to avoid material attachments, and we are trying not to work extra, so the last thing that goes away is our attachment to fame. So trying to get fame and working extra to try to get fame. Now this happens in devotee circles sometimes, and not necessarily. I'm not talking just Krishna devotees. In general, in religion, sometimes people do religion also just for fame. So Prabhupada says this in his explanation in Nectar of Instruction, that sometimes people are, and in Bhagavatam also this is mentioned, people get into religion, or are following religion, or remembering shlokas, or getting knowledge, not for their spiritual advancement, or not to get bhakti, or not to progress in their um, spiritual life, but just to show off, or to get more fame, or to get famous. That means, so if that is the intention of our endeavor in our reading any book, or reading, or going to the temple, or doing any activity, if our goal is to get fame, then it is prayas. So it may be the same activity, but it depends what is your thought behind it. So if the thought behind doing some activity is that I want to, this is my service to Vaishnav, this is my service to Krishna, that I want to learn this, I want to read the scriptures, I want to learn from the scriptures, then that is not prayas. But if the goal behind that is I want to, get this so I can show to everybody that I can, I can contest all the shlokas from Bhagavatam. I know all these shlokas, and I can be famous, and you know, I will, be on YouTube and all that. Now, again, there are some wonderful devotees who give wonderful talks and are inspirational to so many people. But their goal, what is the thought behind it? Are they doing for, spreading Krishna consciousness and helping people? Then it is not prayas. But if the goal for that is that I should be famous, getting me famous, and not necessarily Krishna, not for helping people to spread, or to spread Krishna consciousness, if the goal becomes that I want to be famous, if that is the goal, then that becomes prayas. Is that does that clarify it, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Okay, great.
Very nice questions, Prabhuji. Thank you. Anybody else has any other questions that I can help with?
One question comes to my mind,
Yes. Oh,
and I think maybe most of you will be offended by that question. But since it came to my mind, I should ask it.
sure.
Please forgive me, everybody, if you think that it is not good to think that way. Like the example of making bigger and bigger temples. Does that come into prayers? Like God's purpose can be served by smaller temples also. Like um, recently, Alfred Ford made that temple in Mayapur, and everywhere there was news that this is the biggest temple in the world. It has so many pillars, it has so many halls, it looks beautiful. Was that an example of prayas or not?
Yes. So good question. So that is very obvious to come in the mind, but actually the answer is very simple. Again, as we just discussed, when I was mentioning what is not prayas, one of them was that one of the examples was serving in the temple or for temple worship. That is not prayas. Now the reason why is it not prayas? Again, the thought behind it matters. Okay, so the idea of making, see, they did such a great work that is in the news. So many people are listening about it, hearing about it. They are getting to know about Krishna. Oh, so what is this ISKCON? Oh, what is this Westerner? How come this person who's not an Indian, has nothing to do with our religion, our philosophy? How does he, why is he paying for this temple in India, in this remote place? Oh, okay, it's for Chaitanya. Oh, who's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Right? So it is actually helping in spreading the name of Krishna. Now it becomes, it is probably going to become now the this temple they are making. It is going to be also for Vedic knowledge, for Vedic cosmology. One of the biggest centers of Vedic cosmology is probably going to be there. So this is going to spread so much of nice top class information about Krishna that is right now not available, not easily available. So many scholars, people, so many people who are religious, so many people who may want to know, do not have access to this knowledge right now. Once it is there, once it is made, this is one of the promises actually, this Ford Prabhuji, he made to, forgetting his initiated name, but he made to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, this was one of his instructions from his guru, that is Prabhupada, that he said that he will help in making this temple. So that's why he's finishing this instruction from his guru, which is pretty much the highest thing that we can do, is to follow the instructions of the guru. So so it is wonderful that he's doing this, he's taking part in this. And when people make you make a big monument, and you become make it Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, I'm not saying anything against anybody, but really spend so much money, you make so much um, big things about people who have done a lot in nationalism or all these things. There are so many parks in Noida which have nothing but elephants made for some politician, right? Nobody asks why did they spend so much money on that, right? There's so much crores and crores of you know taxpayers' money that is spent in that, and not giving any spiritual benefit to anybody. But nobody asks why over there, right? But it is a mentality that is not in tune to serving Krishna right now. that makes us question, no, it is temple, no, why the small temple is enough? Why do we need a big temple? I need a big house. I need a big house. And yeah, for Krishna, a small cupboard is fine. Right? He's the owner of the whole universe. Right? And for him, say, no, 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 I'll close it, even keep that closed, keep the cupboard closed. Nobody else is offended in that. But I need a big house, I need a swimming pool, I need this, I need that, which actually I do not need. Nobody questions me, why do you have that? But if I have one room for Krishna, then people are like, oh, what a waste. This whole room is wasted. You could do so much more here. You could open a gym here. Right? So that is our conditioned mentality that makes us think like that. So if we think like that, that really how much has Krishna given us, and out of that, how much are we giving back? Then we can easily answer this question, that what is too much and what is not for Krishna.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. It does.
Okay, thank you.
So Prabhuji, just one general question.
Yes, Prabhu.
So in case of student life and we came here. So we came here a lot, especially for me, I would say we came after here with a lot of prayas, because we did in our student life and so many other things to learn to advance the skill to came here. And also our kids, they do a lot of school activities. So basically they are doing a lot of prayasa. So how can we say this prayasa has not much meaning, because ultimately spiritual life is important, but for the kids to grow on his own feet and to have his own, I mean, he has to do prayas. Otherwise, how he would be successful? But of course, we do not want material successful. But once he goes to his independence level, then he can be do other things as well. So where can we draw the line?
Yes, Prabhuji. Again, a very good question, and I think probably you can answer this better than me, because you are such a exemplary devotee with one wonderful family that you are raising in a Krishna conscious manner, and your child is already so advanced in Krishna consciousness that is exemplary for all other parents, really. So it's a great question. I know you probably you're already so advanced, and you probably can explain this better than me, but I'll try it, as you've asked me and given me this opportunity. And so Prabhuji, we all pretty much who are here for the same reason as you said, right? For some reason or the other, be it for better quality of life, getting better, coming to a better materialistic situation. Yes, because we are leaving, actually going away from Vrindavan. When we're coming from India to here, we are leaving the Braj Bhumi and actually coming here. But and then we are moving, definitely, as we said, we don't need to move too much. But again, what is too much, as I said, is different for everybody and based upon their circumstances. Everybody here would have their own personal reasons and circumstances what made them try to come here and part of it would have definitely been monetary gain also. But the fact that at the end of the day, now that we are somewhat settled, we are trying to cultivate Krishna consciousness in ourselves, our families, and probably much better than what is possible sitting in India. If I'm in India, if I would have been in India, who knows if if I was with my family all the time, they would let me get up in the morning and chant. We had discussions in the past, and we like, okay, why are you doing all this? Before I was married, they were worried I'll never marry. They always were telling me, no, don't do this. This is you'll become a sannyasi or whatever. And we have so many impediments. There's so much social pressure also in India. Actually, if you think about it, of relatives, neighbors, everybody is judging. And here actually we don't have that. So I feel that it's actually easier to follow Krishna consciousness over here. That's not your question. I diverted a little bit, sorry. But your question was again, so everybody came here for some, let's say, material benefits, yes. And then now for kids, they have to do extra to try to learn extracurricular activities. Even if to, let's say if I want to, my child to go into medicine tomorrow, they here it's not like in India that they can just do studies and get clear an entrance exam and they will get in. No, here they need all extracurricular activities. They will see, you know did they play tennis, let's say, or did they do piano, or did they do chess, or whatever. Extracurricular activities are very important, and given a lot of weightage in this study system here. And to be successful in our material life, I would say, over here, then all these extracurricular activities are needed and are a part of life and growing up here. So I think I will go back to the point, Prabhuji, that for each of us in our circumstances, we have to figure out these three spheres of life. First sphere being our Krishna consciousness or spiritual activities. Second sphere being our family life, and then work life. Those are kind of the three spheres that we need to balance. For kids or a student, their work life is basically their education and all these extracurricular activities that we are mentioning. Now, again, if we can try to Krishnaize our activities, and that is one way that I can think of that we can benefit them spiritually also. So if if somebody learns an instrument, and can they play that instrument in kirtan later on, or be helpful in that way. That I never learned any instruments when I was young, but now I wonder if I would have learned. Now again, it may have taken away from some other sphere, but that is one thing that could have helped or could help in Krishna consciousness. So we can try to balance those activities in such a way, if possible. Now, not it would not fit everything and everyone, but that is one way for kids. I think that it may help. Now, all the devotees here, like Shrisha Mataji, Bharti Mataji, they are doing such a great job. Atul Prabhu doing such a great job by teaching these kids about Krishna, and it's just so wonderful. Ryan Prabhu is probably the leader amongst all of them. So that they spend their time that they could have otherwise, this COVID and everything, they would have spent their time watching TV, or if they it would have been talking, doing more pajalpa or things like that. But they are spending it in Krishna conscious activities. So that's one way that they learn. Like now, because of, I think, all the devotees here, like Navya can read so many big words that she, when she's reading, she is able to read such big words that she was never able to read before. And she is much ahead of other kids in reading, because they read from Bhagavad Gita, all these big words, and they ask questions and learn so much. So it's such a nurturing, and loving and safe environment, versus sometimes it may not be a safe environment, and you can't trust everybody. So I'm not sure, Prabhuji, if I was able to answer your question very well. I think I beat around the bush a little bit, but basically my point is that it is difficult to draw the line. It's different for everybody. But if we try to work around these three spheres, and whenever possible, maximize our time for spiritual activities, then we would be doing less and less of prayas, and more and less of atyahar, more and more of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. I think what you said definitely makes sense, and I like the word and implementing the Krishnizing. So even for kids, as you said, there are a lot of activities. So that I mean, say we can take as a because of here that's requirement, not just because we are doing prayas.
Yes, Prabhu.
Because it's a requirement, and ultimately we have to Krishnize. I think that's a very important thing to take it from here. Thank you for explaining in
Thank you,
Hare
Guruji.
Krishna.
Tried my best, and this is Krishna. Any other questions? Yes, Atul Prabhu, you were about to say something?
Hare Krishna. Very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you for sharing. Nice talk and nice realizations. Okay. If no other devotee has anything, then I think we can conclude the session for today.